Imagine carrying around an invisible type of body fat that quietly influences your heart, your liver, your metabolism, even your brain, without you noticing a single symptom. The surprising part is that this fat isn't always visible in the mirror. You don't have to look overweight to have it. Research has shown that even people with a relatively normal body weight can accumulate dangerous amounts of visceral fat, the deep abdominal fat that surrounds vital organs. At the same time, scientists have learned something equally fascinating. Certain everyday foods don't simply provide calories. They interact with your body's biology in ways that may support healthy metabolism, influence immune function, and help maintain a balanced inflammatory response. This doesn't mean food is medicine or that one meal can transform your health overnight, but evidence increasingly suggests that consistent dietary patterns can have meaningful effects over months and years. Today, we're exploring 5 foods backed by growing scientific evidence that may help support the reduction of visceral fat while promoting healthier aging. Some of them are probably already in your kitchen, others may surprise you. And one of the most powerful foods on this list has been hiding in plain sight for decades. Let's begin. For many years, people believed that all body fat was essentially the same. If you gained weight, you simply had more fat. Lose weight, and the problem disappeared. But researchers eventually discovered that the location of fat matters just as much as the amount. Under the skin lies subcutaneous fat. While too much of it can still affect health, it's generally less metabolically active than another type. Deep inside the abdomen is visceral fat. Unlike fat beneath the skin, visceral fat surrounds the liver, pancreas, intestines, and other organs. Scientists have found that this tissue behaves almost like its own endocrine organ, releasing signaling molecules that communicate throughout the body. When visceral fat accumulates in excess, it becomes associated with chronic low-grade inflammation, insulin resistance, changes in blood lipid levels, and increased risk for several long-term health conditions. What's especially concerning is that visceral fat doesn't always announce its presence. Someone may have a relatively slim appearance while still carrying unhealthy levels internally. Researchers sometimes call this TOFI, thin outside, fat inside. However, that's not the most interesting part. Scientists have also discovered that visceral fat is remarkably responsive to lifestyle changes. Unlike some forms of body fat that can be stubborn, visceral fat often decreases first when healthy habits improve. Regular physical activity, adequate sleep, stress management, and nutrition all work together. And nutrition may influence this process through several different pathways at once. Some foods may improve satiety, making it easier to avoid excess calorie intake. Others appear to influence gut bacteria. Some support healthier blood sugar regulation. Others contain natural compounds associated with balanced inflammatory signaling. This brings us to the first food, extra virgin olive oil. For decades, people avoided healthy fats because they believed all fat caused weight gain. Today, evidence paints a much more nuanced picture. Extra virgin olive oil is rich in monounsaturated fats, along with hundreds of naturally occurring plant compounds known as polyphenols. Researchers believe these compounds contribute to many of the health benefits associated with traditional Mediterranean eating patterns. Large observational studies have consistently found that populations consuming olive oil as a primary fat source tend to experience lower rates of cardiovascular disease and healthier aging. But how does this relate to visceral fat? One reason involves satiety. Fat slows stomach emptying and can help people feel satisfied after meals, potentially reducing unnecessary snacking. Another reason involves inflammation. Polyphenols found in high-quality extra virgin olive oil have been studied for their antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Scientists continue investigating how these compounds interact with blood vessels, immune cells, and metabolic pathways. Perhaps even more interesting is that replacing less healthy dietary fats with olive oil appears to provide greater benefit than simply adding olive oil to an already calorie-rich diet. In other words, Substitution matters. Drizzling olive oil over vegetables instead of using highly processed dressings. Cooking with olive oil instead of repeatedly heated refined oils. Adding it to beans or whole grains instead of butter-heavy sauces. Small choices repeated consistently often matter more than dramatic changes made briefly. But researchers later discovered something surprising. Olive oil seems to work even better when combined with another food that many people underestimate: legumes. Beans, lentils, and chickpeas have nourished civilizations for thousands of years, yet many modern diets push them aside in favor of highly processed foods. From a scientific perspective, legumes are remarkably impressive. They're rich in fiber, plant protein, minerals, and slowly digested carbohydrates. This combination helps create stable energy while supporting fullness after meals. Fiber deserves special attention. Most adults consume far less than recommended, yet fiber performs several important jobs simultaneously. It slows digestion, it helps regulate blood sugar, it feeds beneficial gut bacteria, and healthier gut bacteria produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids that scientists believe may support metabolic health and help maintain a balanced inflammatory response. The connection between the gut and visceral fat has become one of the fastest growing areas of nutrition research. Your digestive tract contains trillions of microorganisms collectively known as the gut microbiome. These microbes don't simply digest food. They produce vitamins. They influence immune function. They communicate with hormones. They even generate molecules capable of affecting metabolism. When people regularly consume fiber-rich foods like beans and lentils, beneficial bacteria often thrive. When diets shift heavily toward ultra-processed foods with very little fiber, microbial diversity may decline. Researchers are still uncovering the full story, but evidence increasingly suggests that a healthier gut environment is associated with improved metabolic function. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. The benefits of legumes don't necessarily require massive servings. Consistency appears to matter more than perfection. Adding lentils to soup, mixing black beans into salads, replacing part of the meat in a recipe with beans, including hummus with vegetables. These small habits can gradually increase fiber intake without requiring a complete dietary overhaul. Yet there's another food that works through an entirely different mechanism: fatty fish. For years, omega-3 fatty acids have attracted attention because of their relationship with cardiovascular health. But scientists have also explored how these fats may influence inflammation and body composition. Fish such as salmon, sardines, trout, and mackerel provide EPA and DHA, two long-chain omega-3 fats that participate in cell membrane function throughout the body. Rather than acting like medications, these nutrients become part of normal cellular biology. Researchers have observed that omega-3s may support healthy inflammatory regulation, particularly when diets are otherwise balanced and rich in whole foods. Some studies have also examined whether higher omega-3 intake is associated with improved insulin sensitivity and healthier fat distribution. Although results vary across studies, the overall evidence suggests that regularly consuming fatty fish can be part of an eating pattern associated with better long-term metabolic health. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect isn't the fish itself. It's what often disappears from the diet when fish becomes a regular choice. Many people naturally replace processed meats, fried foods, or heavily refined meals with grilled or baked fish. That substitution may contribute just as much as the omega-3s themselves. Nutrition is rarely about one magical ingredient. It's about patterns. Researchers repeatedly emphasize that foods interact with one another. Healthy eating isn't built on isolated nutrients. It's built on combinations. And that leads us to another discovery many people never expect. Some of the most powerful compounds influencing inflammation don't come from vitamins at all. They come from colorful pigments produced by plants. Bright berries are a perfect example. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries contain anthocyanins, the natural pigments responsible for their vibrant colors. Scientists believe these compounds help protect plants from environmental stress. When humans eat these foods, researchers have observed associations with improvements in several markers related to healthy aging. Anthocyanins are being studied for their potential influence on blood vessels, oxidative stress, brain function, and metabolic health. One reason berries continue to impress researchers is their nutrient density. Compared with many sweet snacks, berries provide relatively few calories while delivering fiber, vitamins, and a remarkable variety of plant compounds. Their natural sweetness also makes them an effective replacement for desserts high in added sugars. That replacement may be one of their greatest strengths. Instead of ending a meal with highly processed sweets, finishing with berries and plain yogurt provides protein, fiber, and beneficial plant compounds together. Scientists increasingly recognize that these combinations create metabolic effects that differ from eating refined sugar alone. But berries reveal another fascinating lesson. Not every healthy food works because it burns fat. Most don't. Instead, they help create internal conditions that make healthy metabolism easier to maintain. They support fullness. They nourish beneficial bacteria. They provide antioxidants. They contribute nutrients involved in hundreds of biological reactions. Individually, these effects may seem modest. Together, over years, they become meaningful. However, we've saved perhaps the most underestimated food for last. It's inexpensive, it's available almost everywhere, and many people walk right past it in the grocery store without realizing its remarkable potential. We'll explore that food next, along with why scientists increasingly believe it may influence inflammation, metabolism, and healthy aging in ways that extend far beyond simple nutrition. Because the biggest surprise isn't just what this food contains, it's how consistently it appears in some of the healthiest dietary patterns ever studied. The final food on our list is one that has quietly earned a place in some of the world's healthiest eating patterns: cruciferous vegetables. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, kale, bok choy, and similar vegetables may not receive the same attention as trendy superfoods, yet decades of research continue to highlight their nutritional value. One reason scientists are so interested in these vegetables is that they contain naturally occurring compounds called glucosinolates. When these vegetables are chopped or chewed, glucosinolates are converted into biologically active compounds that researchers believe may support the body's normal detoxification pathways and healthy cellular function. This doesn't mean these vegetables detox the body in the popular sense of the word. Your liver and kidneys already perform that job remarkably well. Rather, evidence suggests that compounds found in cruciferous vegetables may help support the body's own natural processes. They're also rich in fiber, vitamin C, vitamin K, folate, and numerous plant chemicals that work together in ways scientists are still trying to fully understand. And perhaps most importantly for people concerned about visceral fat, they're incredibly filling relative to their calorie content. Imagine eating a large plate of roasted broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts drizzled with extra virgin olive oil alongside grilled salmon. That meal provides protein, healthy fats, fiber, vitamins, minerals, and a wide variety of plant compounds, all while naturally encouraging fullness. Researchers often refer to this concept as nutrient density. Instead of focusing only on what to remove from your diet, nutrient density asks a different question. How much nutrition can you gain from every bite? That simple shift in thinking changes everything. Rather than chasing restrictive diets, many people discover that filling their plate with satisfying, nutrient-rich foods naturally leaves less room for highly processed options. And that's where the science becomes especially encouraging. Most successful long-term eating patterns aren't built on deprivation. They're built on replacement. Replacing refined grains with whole grains, replacing sugary snacks with fruit, replacing processed meats with fish or legumes, replacing refined fats with extra virgin olive oil. These substitutions don't require perfection. They simply move your overall dietary pattern in a healthier direction. But researchers later uncovered another fascinating piece of the puzzle. No single food works in isolation. The greatest health benefits consistently appear when healthy foods are combined into an overall lifestyle. Take the Mediterranean dietary pattern as an example. People often ask which single ingredient makes it so effective. Is it the olive oil, the fish, the vegetables, the legumes, the fruit, the nuts? The answer appears to be all of them together. Scientists increasingly recognize what's known as the food matrix. Foods contain hundreds, sometimes thousands, of naturally occurring compounds that interact with one another. Those interactions may produce effects that isolated supplements cannot fully replicate. This helps explain why nutrition science can sometimes seem confusing. One study examines a single vitamin, another investigates one antioxidant. Yet when researchers observe real populations over decades, they often find that overall dietary patterns predict health more consistently than any single nutrient. That realization has changed how many experts approach healthy aging. Instead of asking, what's the best superfood, they ask, what eating pattern can someone realistically maintain for the next 20 years? Because consistency almost always beats intensity. And this brings us to one of the biggest misconceptions about visceral fat. Many advertisements promise that a particular drink, supplement, or food will specifically burn belly fat. Current scientific evidence doesn't support those kinds of claims. Visceral fat decreases primarily when the body experiences sustained improvements in energy balance, physical activity, sleep quality, and overall dietary habits. The foods we've discussed today may support that process because they help improve satiety, provide valuable nutrients, encourage healthier blood sugar regulation, and contribute to a balanced inflammatory response. But they're part of the picture, not the entire picture. That distinction matters. Nutrition is powerful, but it's most effective when combined with other healthy behaviors. For example, regular physical activity doesn't simply burn calories. Resistance training helps preserve muscle mass as we age. Muscle is metabolically active tissue that plays an important role in blood sugar regulation and everyday function. Aerobic exercise supports cardiovascular health and is consistently associated with reductions in visceral fat over time. Even something as simple as daily walking can make a meaningful difference when practiced consistently. Sleep deserves equal attention. Researchers have repeatedly observed associations between chronic sleep deprivation and increased appetite, changes in hunger hormones, poorer food choices, and greater accumulation of visceral fat. Think about how much harder healthy decisions become after several nights of poor sleep. You're more likely to crave highly processed foods, less likely to exercise, more likely to snack late at night. Sleep quietly influences many of the choices that determine long-term health. Stress is another important piece. When stress becomes chronic, people often eat differently, move less, and sleep worse. Scientists continue investigating the complex relationship between stress hormones and fat distribution, but one thing is clear. Managing stress supports far more than mental well-being. It also helps create an environment where healthy habits become easier to maintain. And here's something many people find surprisingly reassuring. You don't need to transform your entire lifestyle in a single week. Research on behavior change consistently shows that small, repeatable habits tend to last longer than dramatic overhauls. Imagine making just one improvement every month. This month, replacing butter with extra virgin olive oil. Next month, adding beans to 2 dinners each week, then including berries with breakfast. After that, eating fatty fish twice weekly. Finally, increasing the number of colorful vegetables on your plate. None of those changes seems revolutionary, but together they begin reshaping your overall dietary pattern. One meal becomes one day. One day becomes 1 month. 1 month becomes 1 year. And over time, those seemingly ordinary decisions accumulate. Scientists sometimes refer to this as the compound effect of healthy behaviors. Tiny advantages, repeated consistently, produce meaningful outcomes over years rather than days. This perspective also removes unnecessary pressure. You don't have to eat perfectly. You don't have to eliminate every favorite food. Healthy eating isn't about earning perfection, it's about improving the average quality of your choices. Some meals will be healthier than others. Some weeks will be more consistent than others. That's normal. What matters is the direction you're moving. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson modern nutrition science has taught us. Health isn't built by isolated moments of discipline. It's built by routines that become so familiar they no longer require extraordinary effort. The 5 foods we've explored today: extra virgin olive oil, legumes, fatty fish, berries, and cruciferous vegetables share several important characteristics. They're minimally processed, they're rich in nutrients, they're supported by decades of scientific investigation, and they're common features of dietary patterns repeatedly associated with healthier aging around the world. Researchers continue learning exactly how these foods influence metabolism, inflammation, the gut microbiome, and overall health. New discoveries are being made every year, but the central message has remained remarkably consistent. Whole foods, eaten regularly as part of a balanced lifestyle, appear to support long-term health far more effectively than searching for quick fixes or miracle solutions. It's also worth remembering that every person is different. Age, genetics, medical history, medications, physical activity, and personal preferences all influence nutritional needs. That's why general nutrition information is most valuable when adapted to your own circumstances, ideally in consultation with a qualified healthcare professional if you have specific medical concerns. Evidence-based nutrition isn't about rigid rules. It's about giving your body the building blocks it needs to function at its best. The remarkable thing is that many of those building blocks aren't rare or expensive. They're found in grocery stores around the world. They're foods our grandparents would recognize. They're ingredients that have nourished cultures for generations. Sometimes the greatest advances in health don't come from discovering something entirely new. They come from rediscovering habits that modern life encouraged us to forget. As research continues to evolve, one principle becomes increasingly clear. Our daily food choices communicate with our bodies in countless ways. They influence metabolism. They interact with our immune system. They shape our gut microbiome. They help determine how energized we feel, how well we recover, and how resilient we remain as the years pass. None of these foods offers instant transformation, but together they represent something far more valuable, a sustainable foundation for lifelong health. The decisions we make today may seem small: choosing berries instead of a sugary dessert, adding beans to a soup, cooking vegetables with olive oil, enjoying fish instead of a processed meal, filling half the plate with colorful plants. Individually, those choices may appear insignificant, but over years and decades, they have the potential to shape how we age, how we move, how we think, and how we feel. That's why understanding the science matters. If you enjoyed this exploration of evidence-based nutrition and healthy aging, consider subscribing for more in-depth discussions grounded in research. As scientists continue uncovering new insights into longevity and metabolism, we'll continue separating solid evidence from popular myths, helping you make informed decisions that support your health for years to come.